Hello and welcome to In Conclusion. I'm Kejan Haynes. We have a very special show this week. You know, there's something that's about this week, the week leading up to the anniversary of the People's Partnership, because somehow we just always seem to go crazy. Do you remember what was happening this week a year ago? Well, I'll remind you. So remember that Vice story that came out about Trinidad and Tobago that said all the politicians scampering to say that we weren't as bad off in crimes as we were? Well, that came out this week. And another video came out, the video of a man who looked and sounded a lot like Arnold Roberts. That leaked, and that was also this week. And our senior investigative journalist, Mark Besant, had to flee the country because of threats to his life. And of course, you all know that this week was just insane. Emails everywhere. But before we get into that, I want to get into something that's been really, get something off my chest. It's been bugging me all week. Last week, the Deputy DPP sent out a release which essentially told the Prime Minister to, hold up on the victory lap. The investigation is still continuing. But we all know the story, but it got personal for us at TV6 when the AG's release said, that in a letter to the DPP, said that we at TV6 were tweeting out parts of the letter as early as 6 p.m. Now, to be fair, the AG says it was reported that we tweeted as early as 6 p.m. So why is this significant? Well, the AG was trying to say that the release was sent to the media before it was sent to him. So as part of our story, we just thought that we'd point out that we got the release after 8 p.m. and tweeted it at 8:40. So we, just like you can do now, we just scroll through our tweets. You do it now. And we just found the first one. So the intention was merely to say, hold up, Mr. Attorney General, your facts are a little bit wrong, especially if you're going to be using it in your argument. So lo and behold, that night, my WhatsApp starts blowing up because this guy, Varma Ramdan, you're going to put it up, because we're not afraid to call names on this show. Varma Ramdan goes on Facebook to say that he has screenshots that we tweeted the story at 6 p.m. and tagged a bunch of CNC3 reporters and attorney Wayne Sturge. I'll tell you why that's important later. So I'm just going to come out and say it. Those are just poorly photoshopped pictures, and they're not even very well thought out. And I'll tell you why. There's an easy way to prove it. Because look at this one. It says, breaking. This is a DPP's office, says, police report based on U.S. Department of Justice info did not clear PM and ex-AG Ram Logan. And here's the important part. It says, more on late night news at 10. You know, journalists are always being accused of rushing to be the first to break a story. It's true, we do that. So why on earth would we tweet a story at 6 p.m. and then tell you to watch at 10? Because we would have tweeted the story at 6 and then led the newscast at 7. I'm not even entirely sure that anybody still watches our 10 o'clock news. So we want maximum viewership. Anyway, any journalist worth his salt could have figured that out, right?
Let's look at the TV6 factor. You're a social media savvy individual. Do you have information that TV6 in fact took down the tweet from their page after that came out?
Apparently it's not there anymore. But it's a very good thing in this day and age. Social media has in essence relegated the importance of the traditional mainstream media.
Oh, good grief. But you know what? Let's just listen to the rest of the exchange because it gets even more ridiculous.
Social media acts as a check and balance on mainstream media. So while CCN TV6 who would like to hold themselves above board, they are saying that it was posted after. I saw with my own eyes the tweet, date stamped 6 p.m. So quite clearly, they had access to the media release before the Attorney General.
And some people took screenshots of it, so the evidence is there that TV6 did post it before, as the AG has pointed out.
Once more.
Now, why would TV6 take down the tweet after the AG complained?
Mr. Sturge, why on earth would we take down a tweet? And by the way, I'm almost positive that the timestamp that you claim you saw with your own eyes is the photoshopped image that Varma Ramdan posted and tagged you in, because I'm not even entirely sure that you're on Twitter. Anyway, I hope you're examining your evidence in court better than that. Anyway, let me hear your answer.
They've been caught red-handed. Their dishonesty has been shown. Because if you are saying it didn't happen and there's evidence that it did, then one has to wonder whether you are truly a credible media source. I would say they are not.
And this is why I was having a discussion about bias in the media yesterday. I found it very suspect that TV6 would have taken down their tweet, and media houses don't operate like that.
And there you go. That's the only part of that interview that was actually factual. Media houses, especially ours, don't operate like that. I mean, we don't even delete tweets with typos. So why on earth would we delete those tweets? And it doesn't even matter that what time we got the release. How would we have known that the AG wasn't consulted when it was sent out? We get the release, we report the release. And are we clairvoyant? So we knew that it would come in handy later. So we tweeted the exact same thing twice, exactly 2 hours later to the minute, so we could go back and delete the first ones. And there's a whole world of holes that I could poke into this argument, but I'm not wasting any more time on that. Because I know you want to hear about Emailgate. We get in there. But there's so many stories that I want to touch on that were extremely important this week that we totally overlooked. For instance, a student of Chaguanas South Secondary is now before the court because he allegedly set fire to his school while there were police officers present there, while they were there for an anti-bullying campaign. And of course, luckily the fire service had to, they had water to put out this fire, because there's some people in Maracas St. Joseph that have not gotten water, as you'll see in this report.
But others have it even worse.
October coming will be 6 years. 6 years I haven't received a supply of water in my pipeline. October coming will be 6 years. And when I call for a chuck-borne water, I take 9 months to get it.
But there was some even more troubling news that you may not have heard about coming out of a joint select committee meeting featuring the police service and the Ministry of Gender.
Moving from about 1,500 cases in 2009 to over 2,000 reported cases in 2012, the Gender Ministry is admitting that it doesn't have a dedicated team to treat with domestic violence.
There's no manager domestic violence unit, if I'm reading this chart correctly. There is no manager gender affairs. There is nobody in the National Family Services.
And the list of inadequacies go on. The Victim and Witness Support Unit of the TTPS told the Joint Select Committee that the situation is a lot more frightening, as it has had to deal with over 4,000 cases of violence, a percentage of which is domestic, for 2015 alone.
All right, but at least the Prime Minister made another major announcement, not the election date, but the date that she will announce the election date.
We will not postpone or put off the elections at all. I will stick within the law. I will keep to the parliamentary term that you elected me in this country to have a mandate for 5 years. That mandate will expire on June 17. I intend to serve my full parliamentary term. And thereafter, the Constitution indicates we have 3 months within which for an election to be held. And yes, once the parliament is dissolved, I will name the election date.
All right, so that was a pretty major achievement for TV6. Our town meeting had rolled into Siparia, the Prime Minister's constituency, and she surprised everyone when she showed up at about 5 minutes before the end. Now, please don't listen to Dr. Munilal, who said that it was our fault that she fell ill because we kept her out late. Anyway, the Prime Minister is said to be resting comfortably and gearing up for the partnership's 5th anniversary tomorrow. So let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
Join us every Sunday evening at 7:30 for some political hard talk. In the lead-up to the general elections, we'll bring guests with opposing political views to the set of a current affair to thrash it out. Whether the politicians or their supporters, Jabari Fraser will ask them the important questions that you'd want answers for in this silly season. A current affair where opposing politicians make for strange bedfellows. Sundays at 7:30 p.m. with repeats on Tuesday mornings at 9:30. Don't miss it.
All right, welcome back. Something very important happened this week. The Trinidad and Tobago Publishers and Broadcasters Association, along with the Media Association and other stakeholders, met with the government's legislative committee to discuss the cybercrime bill. And here's in a nutshell why.
The legislation, clauses 9 and 13 of the bill strike directly at the day-to-day professional activities of journalists and other civil society interests. Matt says the bill threatens to stifle and criminalize journalists and members of the public who receive, gain access to, or share computer data from another person, knowing that the other person has obtained the computer data through unauthorized means.
After that meeting, the government decided that the debate would continue, but they're not going to take a look at it. They're not going to vote on it, sorry. But tonight, we're going to talk to an ICT specialist and writer, journalist, Shiva Bisesa, who says there's a lot more at stake with this bill than just press freedom. So, good evening, Shiva. So, talk to me. So, what is it that we're missing? Because you're saying that the media probably is a little biased in what they're worried about in this bill, but there's something there's more.
Well, I mean, start with a lot of countries right now within the Caribbean are going through this process of, developing cybercrime legislation. It started with a ITU project, a HIPCA project, to develop standardized cybercrime legislation. So Trinidad is just one within many Caribbean nations going through this right now. So
we're all essentially trying to do a copy-paste, but fix it to suit our own individual needs.
Right. So there are two standards that were developed. There was the HIPCA standard and there's the eGRIP standard. However, there has been issues with both of these standards, especially when you try to compare it against international standards. So the Budapest Convention, which is the only effective global treaty on cybercrime. What countries try to do is they try to align themselves with this convention or try to become a signatory to this convention. So if your laws are not in accordance or in alignment with that convention, you can have potential problems when you get to the point of seeking assistance from other signatories to that convention. So it's not necessarily that the laws that we have are bad right now, but there are some issues. So there was a December 2014 paper by the Council of Europe which cited certain issues with the HIPCA model law exercise. Now, Trinidad and Tobago did not adopt the HIPCA model law as it came down. They did modify it into what is currently our cybercrime legislation, or cybercrime bill. But there are some issues that was outlined within that paper that I have seen within the current format of the cybercrime bill.
So sorry, go ahead.
No, the 2014 as well as the 2015 bill. Other than that, the media should be commended for seeking their interest with respect to those particular clauses 9 and 13, which I see both sides. So I see the need for people to protect their data, for corporations to protect their data, and I also see the need where people would have like an exercise to, for instance, like whistleblowing, where you need to get a journalist involved and share that data with them.
Right, exactly. But I think that's where the problem comes in, the word unauthorized. What does that mean, and how do you define it? And it's such a slippery slope that anything could...
Well, to start, I'm not a lawyer, IT professional, so let's make that clear. But I mean, unauthorized data access, so you can have access to data, but within an organization, you may have privileges to access that data, but there are other data that you don't have access to. But you can still access. Now, having access to something and having authorization to have it is two different things. So in the instance where someone shares with the media certain files which they didn't necessarily have authorization to have, but they thought that, in the public interest, we need to share this with the media. That's where these clauses could potentially come into effect.
So let's talk about the Grenada model. The Grenada model had a major problem because what it had said was that its Facebook posts and defamatory Facebook posts could also be against the law. So is that something that's also in this bill that we should be looking out for?
So I think the Grenada model would have been modeled after the eGRIP model law.
Right.
Now the eGRIP model law had more problems than the HIPCA model law. Thankfully, we haven't adopted fully the HIPCA model. We have derived from the HIPCA model, but there are still some issues within it. So I would recommend that the authorities take a look at that Council of Europe December 2014 paper to see some of the issues that are outlined with respect to the HIPCA model law.
Now, as we're talking about Facebook and stuff like that, this bill is also supposed to target cyberbullying. How is it going to do that, and how do you monitor or define cyberbullying?
Well, cyberbullying could be, I think how it is defined within the bill is defined as repeated annoyance. Well, I don't want to use the word annoyances because that caused some uproar.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But repeated offending messages towards another party could be an instance of cyberbullying. But I mean, so for instance, an initial tweet from me, just one single tweet from me, could potentially lead to a multitude of tweets, which is not necessarily that I am repeating that same action, but it is propagating in social media. So have I necessarily performed an offense under the cybercrime bill? That is one of the questions I've asked.
So how does this work? How does this work with, let's say, now we have all these political bloggers, so to speak, that come out and attack journalists? Would that be considered cyberbullying as well, or is there a special?
I suppose it depends on the interpretation of the law. It depends on how the people, the law enforcement agencies, would have to interpret a particular case in accordance with the law and determine whether or not an offense has taken place.
Now, you've called for more consultation. Who else should the government be speaking to?
Right. So when this bill comes into play, there's an aspect within this bill called due diligence. So, for instance, it's a corporate body could be charged with an offense under the cybercrime bill if they don't practice due diligence towards preventing attacks on other operations on the internet, or even critical infrastructure on the internet. The critical infrastructure will carry a higher penalty. So that is where, it now mandates that organizations take information security more seriously. It now mandates that they develop an information security governance structure and awareness campaigns within their organization. So for instance, the same social media example. Mm-hmm. If an offending message comes from the corporate Twitter account, the corporation could potentially be charged with an offense under the cybercrime bill.
Now, of course, this show is all about the media, and you're a writer, and you write about these things. Is it that there isn't enough knowledge about tech, or for tech journalists to come out and to write about these issues?
Well, tech journalism in Trinidad locally is not really seen as...
Well, we don't really have an Apple. We wouldn't have like an Apple event to cover that sort of thing, right?
Yeah. It's not really seen as I would say, as a sexy issue, as like a business guardian feature or something. Hey, I think there's space for it. Mm-hmm. I think, probably the Express or the Guardian could dedicate some more space towards technology writing to increase, stakeholder interest within this, because if this piece of legislation comes into play, it now brings into organizations a more serious nature needs to be developed around information security and technology management. All right.
So I'll let you wrap up and give your final thoughts on this bill. So do you think it should be going through in this this parliamentary session, or I guess we'll have to wait till the next one?
Yeah, I think it's a step in the right direction, right? We need legislation like this. I think what I would like to see more of, I would like to see more stakeholder engagement. I would like to see more active participation from user groups who are dedicated within ICT. For instance, ISPs, corporations, they need to understand how this bill is going to impact them. And they need to understand it and put forward their views to the authorities. And let's come to a consensus on this thing.
All right. Shiva Bisesa, thank you very much for your time and your insight. We look forward. The website is Tech News TNT.
Tech News TT is where most of my articles are, but you can go to pinaka.co.tt for my website.
All right. Check it out. All right. So everyone always tells me that I need to get the public involved with this show. So we are actually going to take some calls right after the break. Stay with us. This is In Conclusion. All right, welcome back. This is In Conclusion. So we're trying something new where we're taking your calls, and apparently we have someone on the line from Canupia. Hi, good evening, Canupia. How are you doing?
Hi, good evening, Kejan.
Hi.
One of the things that truly concerns me with this bill is the measures in it for people who probably receive email, who have access to email, because the thing about it is that the public, if it weren't for journalism, right, and journalists and people who actually blew the whistle on alleged corruption at state enterprises and all over the country, all over the place, we would know nothing. We would know nothing. So I, being a citizen, looking at parts of this bill, it scares me, because it means that if the journalists do not have that sort of freedom, and people do not have the freedom to really be people of integrity, because it does not mean that a whistleblower is a snitch, but a whistleblower may be someone trying to protect the interests of the people of the country, and our resources. So I hope that you all vigorously examine that bill and do whatever is necessary to make sure that the people of the Republic still have the opportunity to have access to information that we need.
All right, Kanupia, thanks very much for your time. But before we get into the next caller, San Fernando, I understand San Fernando wants to talk about the Integrity Commission. We saw some really good journalism this week. Often, we just kind of sit around and wait for members to come out and hold a press conference or send a press release. Well, some of our journalists took a little step forward and got some of the best sound bites of the week. Listen.
How are you? Fane Richards from TV6 News.
Doorstepping the man of the moment, one whom some are calling on the president to relieve of his duties. With the hours dragging on and no official word on the possible consequences of 2 resignations from the Integrity Commission, we asked the chairman, Zainul Hossain, to clarify.
Have you met with the president regarding the 2 resignations from the commission?
I have no comment to make.
We're going to take a call. San Fernando, hi. You have something to say about the Integrity Commission?
Yes. Kejan, good night.
Hi, good evening.
I have lived in Trinidad all my life, but I have never seen such level of corruption. Every state institution, even the churches, this UNC-led government has penetrated. Even some of the pastors are corrupted. As a born-again Christian, I'm ashamed. You understand? I'm literally ashamed. And it's time that people say stop. They say they make progress, but the price of progress is too high. It's too high. I want my granddaughter to grow up with integrity, with honesty, with loyalty, as is preaching the word of God.
All right, thanks, San Fernando. We're going to get to somebody else. Can I just add, though, that the Integrity Commission chairman was actually very upset about what our Fane Richards reporter did to him. And listen to what he told CNC3.
Justice Hossain told us he was harassed outside a mosque today and has been followed. He says he intends to make a formal complaint to the Media Association of TNT.
All right, so good luck getting something out of the Media Association. They're not a body that punishes journalists. Kind of like the Integrity Commission, they don't really punish anybody. Anyway, we have Tunapuna on the line.
They don't really punish anybody. Anyway, we have Tunapuna on the line. Hello?
We lost that call. We have somebody else on the line. All right.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello?
Hi, yes.
Yes. Sometimes when I listen to my fellow citizens in this country, I feel very rejected as an independent thinker. When the words are used, everybody in the country do like this. No. Express your view. That's your view, fine. But don't express it as though you're speaking for everybody in the country. I would like to say to this, the media personnel. And when you report it, don't report your personal view. Report the facts. That is important.
I don't think we've ever reported our personal views, but there's a difference between reporters and columnists.
But I have heard persons of your media house report.
All right, well, to each his own, I guess. But that's our final call. Thanks very much. And thank you for calling. I was never actually sure that people watched this show. I figured it was Saturday night and everybody was out liming. But this was In Conclusion. Thank you so much. We're going to be here again next week, Saturday at 7:30. Also, a Current Affairs also live tomorrow at 7:30. So a brand new week of news begins right now.